That's right. Once again, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for another edition of Orange and Blue today. It's Cecil Lammey. It is Andrew Mason. It is Denver Broncos now not facing Jonathan Taylor. I mean, I guess that's a bit of good news, Mace, as we talk about today's show. The top story of the day is that there is no Jonathan Taylor for Thursday night.
Yeah, massive loss for the Colts. Not really much of a surprise when we saw the reports yesterday that he was at practice but not taking part and actually had a boot on his foot. So not really a shock, but you're taking the power gear out of this offense. We'll get into the guys that are going to run the ball, and yes, it could include Philip Lindsay if they call him up from the practice squad. So that might be an interesting storyline. But I mean, you have a Colts offense that is built around the bell cow running back. There aren't many NFL offenses that are structured this way anymore. Indy has one. Tennessee obviously has another with Derrick Henry. It's a game changer. It's for the Colts. Taylor basically single-handedly ran them back into contention last year when they got hot down the stretch, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough sledding for them, and it is a huge break for the Broncos not having to see Taylor, especially after what Josh Jacobs just did to them on Sunday.
Right, and when you look at Jonathan Taylor, and listen, I got some good things to say about Deion Jackson, and certainly Nyheim Hines is a dangerous player. And we could talk about Phil as well if he gets called up from the practice squad. But with Taylor, no matter the score, you could keep giving it to him. I think if you are the Colts and you fall behind, now these teams don't average many points. I believe it's 16 points top of my head for the Broncos and 14 points a game for the Colts. Again, top of my head from writing my 3 Keys article at denverfan.com. But if you were to build a lead with Taylor, they could keep feeding him. With these other guys, they might not. They might go away from those other backs if they do fall behind.
Yeah, and part of it is obviously he's capable of being that home run threat at any time. The other thing also is in play for Jonathan Taylor is his involvement in the pass game too. And so you take a very effective target. That's honestly like it's his ability as a receiver that he's displayed going back to Wisconsin, which is why I thought that the Chiefs erred 2 years ago in taking the advice of their quarterback who wanted Clyde Edwards-Helaire over picking the guy who I thought would have been more complete for them and would have really been scary in the Chiefs offense. And that's Jonathan Taylor. So that was a break for the Broncos, not having to see Taylor twice a year. Now they're not going to have to see him on Thursday night. And so, yeah, now that the other guys aren't capable, but you're trying to recreate him in the aggregate, as it were. I mean, whereas Taylor is just, he does everything. That's it.
Yeah, he does everything, doesn't need to come off the field. Now you're using 2 backs or maybe 3 backs to recreate that. And you're also trying to keep the ball away from Matt Ryan. Like the Colts' worst enemy might just be their quarterback. Is it 9 fumbles? Is that right?
I think it's 8 or 9. 8 or 9.
9 fumbles. I don't know how many are lost, but then you have 5 interceptions, 4 or 5. The numbers are staggering when you think about they've played 4 games and their quarterback has turned the ball over almost a dozen times with the 9 fumbles and 4 or 5 picks.
9 fumbles.
9 fumbles.
He's fumbled 9 times.
9 times, Bueller. 9 times. This is incredible.
4 fumbles in week 1 when they tied the Houston Texans. And now 3 of the 9 have resulted in giveaways. So 3 fumbles lost out of 9. But still, that is just unfathomable. And he followed that 4 fumble, 1 interception game in week 1 in Houston with a 3-pick, 1 fumble game against the Jaguars in week 2 when the Colts got shut out. I mean, he's now, that being said, aside from the fumbles, and he's had 2 fumbles each, lost 1 in the last 2 games. Matt Ryan as a passer has gotten very much back on track in the last couple of weeks. Awful the first 2 games, back to being, at least as a passing quarterback, what you expect from Matt Ryan. And so that's something that you're a little concerned about. But at the same time, if you're this Broncos defense, I think you're feeling pretty good about your chances of shutting down or at least containing the Colts receivers as long as it's your corners on their receivers. The concern that I have, and I think it's been laid bare the last couple of games, is when you see opponents setting up matchups where you've got Jonas Griffith and Josie Jewell trying to cover receivers. And yeah, I imagine the Colts may try to do some of that, even though their prep is going to be limited on a short week.
Yeah, and maybe even some converted receivers who are at tight end and converted basketball player in Mo Alley Cox.
He
VCU,
took some
time,
baby.
but as soon as he got going, what was it? What did they say? Because he used to be a shot blocker in college, so they'd say Mo says no.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I believe so.
During the tournament days, they're running up there for VCU, but like Mo says no. Yeah. Well, the Broncos are going to try to say no to Mo. Do we know Mo? Because, the kid's incredible. And I asked Ajira Evero yesterday, like, how do you account for 3 tight ends? Because Jelani Woods is 6'7" and can run. Mm-hmm. Kylan Granson's a converted wide receiver, first at Rice and then at SMU, now a tight end for the Colts. Like, you've got receiving weapons that maybe the household names aren't as familiar with.
Right. And you're talking with Mo Alley Cox, you're talking about somebody who's an athletic mismatch. Mm-hmm. And so that's the matchup that gets you a little bit nervous, even though you look at his production over the years. Like if you just did the box score stat thing on Mo Alley Cox, you'd be like, man. But then you watch him, you watch the position he gets, you watch the body control that he has, and you see how far he's come. I mean, I remember back in 2017, I believe he was on the Colts practice squad that year. And I said to a few people, like, remember, it was the Broncos were in bag shape. They were going for a 5-11 season. And I'm like, the bottom of this roster is so bad. I would start plucking people off practice squads. And I would have, and one of the guys that I said I would have plucked off somebody's practice squad was Mo Alley Cox. Right. To see where it goes. And, but that being said, would the Broncos have been as patient with his development as the Colts were? Probably not. I mean, it has taken Mo Alley Cox a year on the practice squad and now 4+ years on the roster to get to where he is today, where he's actually able to channel and harness athleticism into making some nice plays down the field.
Yeah, and I think they kept Austin Ford around for 3 years, so I would hope they would be patient with Mo Alley Cox. Who was the other Colts tight end, University of Miami, that never played college football? Obviously behind Jimmy Graham, followed Jimmy Graham, because the Broncos were the first one to work him out. Like the Broncos, Eric something or other, if memory serves, but the Broncos worked him out. University of Miami, tight end, never played college football, went to the Colts. They kept him around for some time.
So it was Eric Swoop.
Eric Swoop. There we go. Yeah, see, I knew it was Eric something.
Just looked him up. He played for Jimmy Larinaga down there.
Yeah, and the Broncos were the first team that alerted everybody about like his presence as a potential tight end, and the Colts kept him around for years. Never did anything. So they've taken a chance before on these basketball players, and I think that's hey, hit it till you strike gold, right?
Right. I mean, if at first you don't succeed, I mean, of course, we go way back into the well with the Broncos. It was the kind of thing they did too. Remember Wesley Duke from Mercer? Yeah. And he had that touchdown late in the 2005 season in Buffalo. Wesley Duke's kind of a what might have been because of the knee injuries that he had. And so we never really got to find out. And then, you keep swinging until it works. Well, then you swung on Julius Thomas in 2011. That worked out really well. So
yeah. That did. Portland State, baby.
I love the converted basketball players at tight end. Yes, I love it.
Yeah, Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, the list goes on and on and on. And when you hit, it can hit big at that position.
But you have to give it time. You have to give it time. That's the thing. And
must be patience.
And patience is what most NFL teams right now do not possess.
Especially with staffs turning over, right? So you need to be patient. You need to have the same staff so they can maintain their patience. My man Soup says, what's up with Greg Dulcich? Needs some tight end production and use the middle of the field. Boomer sooner. That's for Soup. So Greg Dulcich, I know Kliss had toyed with the idea about like he's going to play on Thursday. He's not going to play on Thursday.
No, I mean, it's the notion was farcical on its face because he would have had to play this game without practicing this week. The Broncos aren't. They're doing walkthroughs this week. That's it. They're not actually having a real practice. So for both Dulcich and Michael Ojemudia, you would have asked them to come off injured reserve without actually going through a practice after they came off of IR. And the tell was at practice at the walkthrough when we were out there for about 9 minutes on Tuesday, right around midday. And you look over and you see, Greg Dulcich is still on the injured field and Michael Ojemudia is still on the injured field. And Quinn Miners was over there with him. And of course, we officially learned he won't play on Thursday. That's to no one's surprise. Billy Turner was over on the injured field. He's still listed as questionable. I'm going to do the air quotes on that, come across like Dr. Evil. But Turner being on the rehab field on Tuesday, he's not going to play on Thursday. So,
yeah. Well,
there are always
waiting.
tells. When you go to practice, whether it's seeing who's on the side field or when they actually practice, you kind of can see some things formationally in that open to the media period of practice when they're doing individual work. There are always tells that can kind of give you an indication of what's really going on. As we like to say, focus on what they do, not what they say.
Focus on what they do. And could it be a breakout? Our guy, Colorado Sports Dude, says a breakout type of game would be awesome. And I know Russell Wilson talked about that. What does progress look like? He's like a win. And I like that. I agree with that. Okay, it's a win. All right, Russ. But again, what kind of transformation, chrysalis, right? Is that the word I'm searching for? Could we see from caterpillar to butterfly for this
metamorphosis
offense? Metamorphosis. There you go.
Is that what we're looking for?
Well, and then I thought chrysalis. Don't butterflies, centipedes?
I think but I think the process is called metamorphosis, right?
Okay, yeah. There you go. Will we see metamorphosis on Thursday night? At least a little bit.
I think we'll see a little bit. Now, that being said, when he says the focus is on winning, when you step back from it, you look at this Colts defense, they're not going to have Shaquille Leonard, but they've got linebackers who are 80 to 90% of Shaquille Leonard. The Colts have a type at linebacker. And you look at even without Shaquille Leonard, you look at their backers and you look at the Broncos backers. They're not in the same. I'm sorry. I like Josie Jewell. I like Jonas Griffith. They're not in the athletic class of the Colts linebackers, and they're being able to make plays from sideline to sideline, being able to handle coverage responsibilities. The Colts have decided this is a priority for them in the way that the Broncos haven't, and because of that, it's going to be interesting to watch what Russ does because he has leaned on the check down, and you have the type of linebackers in Indianapolis that I think can limit the ceiling of what those check downs can accomplish to keep you on schedule.
Yeah, keep him on schedule, and that's something Russ talked about after the game. Now he it was after the game, so I always give a guy a break, but he was like tripping up over his words, trying to figure out what he wanted to say, but it was staying on schedule. Yeah, like staying on schedule, not getting behind, even just an out. And was that your question? Because somebody asked the question, and once in a while, usually you have some really good ones. Troy has some really good ones. There's some garbage questions, but like it was about the staying on schedule and not getting behind. Might have been Nick Cosmiter, our friend.
Yesterday?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in the it would have been Nick or somebody else because I was in the locker room yesterday. So
but it was on staying on schedule because we know that there's a lot of times this team is in 2nd and 12. Like you can't stay on schedule when you're going into what did Alton call it? Like get back on track, GBOT, not the GB zone. Not the GB zone, but the GBOT zone. Get back on track. Well, it's hard to do that.
Gbot.
There's
a robot. There's a Gbot. They like to have cute terms for everything, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Can they stay on schedule this week? Because against that defense, the Colts are going to bring it, man. Defensively, this is no pushover team.
If they can't stay on schedule, SOS, it's going to lead to another SOS, a real SOS for the Broncos offense, because this is not the type of team that you're going to be able to get off the mat against. And the key, frankly, when the Colts struggle on defense, it's because they beat themselves.
Yes.
Like you look at them early against the Tennessee Titans. Look at them then after the first quarter. Completely different. I mean, the Colts are sitting there for all that's gone wrong. They're 1-2-1 because of what they're not doing. Right? It's on them. Of all the teams that have disappointing starts, I would say what the Colts' disappointing start is the most on that team of about anybody in the league at this point. They should be 3-1 right now. They're talented enough to be 3-1 despite the fumbles of Matt Ryan. They should, that defense, even with Shaquille Leonard limited, and of course he's not going to play in this game. That should not give up. They should not give up 2 quick touchdowns to a Titans offense that came into the game and was on a bit of an inconsistent streak. And then
they were on a tier
yeah.
where you thought, are we going to see Malik Willis? Like,
Yes.
that's where they were entering that game. You're like, oh my God, is Ryan Tannehill going to get benched?
Not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. Now they're 2-2. They're tied for first place. Everything is ducky in Tennessee, and it's the Colts right now. But the thing is, even though they're not winless, the Colts and they are hurting. This is where you kind of worry about a team that expected bigger things than they've been, and they can look at themselves and say, we have these losses. We are below our expectations because of things that are largely within our control. And it was true for the Raiders as well. And so that is where you sort of have a little bit of a concern about this matchup. And on top of everything else, the same things that you can say about the Broncos having a short week. Hey, you quickly get past it, move on. Colts feel the exact same way too.
Right. You have two teams in a similar situation. I just kind of believe in the experience of Frank Reich. He just gets it. Like, it takes some time. Why does it start slow every year?
Oh, yeah. And now Colts fans have lost patience for that because the hashtag Fire Frank trended on Twitter on Sunday. I mean, they're
okay.
The pressure is on out there in Indianapolis. And I mean, this is let's go through the last few years here. Brissett 17, Luck 18, Brissett 19, Rivers 20, Wentz 21, Ryan 22. I mean, this is who's going to be quarterbacking him next year?
Cooper Rush.
Oh my God! Oh, hey, do you know what?
He's going to make some money.
Do you remember the last time that the Indianapolis Colts brought in an ex-Dallas Cowboys sometime starter, mostly backup quarterback? Do you remember that? You're old. You're old enough to.
I'm old enough to remember.
Yes.
Oh boy, if I go through my memory, I'm drawing a blank right now. If we talk about former Cowboys,
Gary Hogaboom.
Hogaboom, of course, yes.
He got to Indy, and he got hurt like within 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to put in Jack Trudeau, who was then a rookie, and that was the year they started 0-13, and then Ron Meyer came in. They won the last 3, and then they won the division title next year. So hey, there's hope for the Colts. But the point being, if they bring in a Dallas backup, with all respect to Cooper Rush, who's doing fine, not great, just fine. Right. Cooper Rush gives me kind of the Matt Flynn vibes. Like this is as much as you're getting out of him. And if the Colts did bring in Cooper Rush for next year, I think they'd be turning around for 2024 and bringing in another quarterback. I mean, this is and this goes right to the top. You have an impatient owner, right? An owner who looks at his roster and believes it's a quarterback away. And actually, the funny thing is, this year I actually thought he had a point, but Matt Ryan came out of the blocks and was terrible. I mean, that's they were 0-1-1 because Matt Ryan couldn't hang on to the football and wasn't passing effectively. They've split the last 2 games when Matt Ryan actually has started looking like Matt Ryan again. And that is one. And admittedly, from the Broncos' perspective, one thing that does concern me is that Matt Ryan is starting to look like good Matt Ryan.
And once they figure it out, nobody wants to face the Colts when everybody's healthy. When Jonathan Taylor's healthy, that's a playoff team. That's a team that's built to win in the playoffs.
As lousy as they look right now, they're a half game out at first. I mean, the thing that has changed, of course, is Jacksonville looking pretty spry and looking like a team that maybe isn't a Super Bowl contender, but looks like a team that's legit and can cause you problems. So,
I like how Nate says Specs Mason.
Yeah, I left the reading glasses on today.
Okay,
I had. I mean, I'm only looking at my phone, so I'm not looking very far. The other thing I like about this is because these are literally just reading glasses. So I'm sitting here at my laptop most of the day, and I'm using them. They're reading in anti-glare glasses. I'm getting old. I need that sort of thing. Nice, Cecil. Nice.
See, I got the Gunners on. These are the ones so your eyes, because you and I stare at screens all day.
Yes.
So your eyes will get tired. It'll hurt, man.
Oh, it does hurt. I mean, I notice it when I don't have these things on. And But anyway, the beauty part of this is I wear this and I can focus right on you. and then everything else in the background is just out of focus. By the way, we got this one comment here, trying to read that dude's pennant, but too shaped. All right, okay. Let's see.
Who's on your pennants? Who's on your pennants?
Right, we're gonna go. I'm gonna go from as you're viewing it from right to left. The blue one, North Carolina Tar Heels basketball, the national titles. Then Tampa Bay Mutiny, a Major League Soccer team that died after the 01 season. They contracted it. Next to that, that's a Super Bowl 25 pennant, Buffalo versus the Giants. I was there. Next to that, 2007 World Series, Rockies against the Red Sox. Was there for that. Next to that, we got ourselves a Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2002 championship pennant. Next to that, a Lightning pennant. You can briefly see an old school Bucks pennant. And then down below is a Tampa Bay Rowdies soccer pennant.
Okay. What's the little pennant? What's the tiny pennant?
It's St. Louis Blues. I just found it in a box and I just used it to fill space. I guess I should find it. I need to find it like a little Avs pennant or maybe a Colorado Rockies hockey pennant for that or so. And then I got some spare space over my shoulder here. But yeah, this is okay. Yeah. That's the backdrop. Cecil and I were actually talking about backdrops before we came on today.
Yes.
So I appreciate the noticing, and I appreciate the compliment. Yes, I agree. It is dope AF.
Yeah, it is. It's a BFD to watch OBT, and that's Orange and Blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. We will be on tomorrow as we take you up to game time. We're going to do this show. Mace, I'll assume you're going to then rush to the stadium. I apologize, brother. And then we're going to do a little 15-minute pregame. Are you going to do the show from the stadium?
I'm going to do the show somewhere from the stadium. I haven't decided yet. It's going to depend on the cell signal.
Right.
So I'll probably try to. I may end up doing it from the same spot I've been doing our pregame shows, which is I find a spot there on the club level
on the concourse.
Lounge. Yeah. It's and I just ask, hey, can I borrow a chair? And I just sit down and
Who says no to Andrew Mason, man? You ask, you're so nice, right?
I try to be friendly. I try to be a good person. I know you try to be a good person too. We all have our moments, but but it's actually worked out kind of nice. And I kind of like anything that gives you a sense of place, right? I can't go out and do it in the Stadium Bowl because there are rules against that. So anything that at least kind of gives you a sense of things happening, that we're there, that, that of environment, that's why I do it. And also the bonus is if the press box meal is substandard and I just want to go grab some grub as soon as I'm done, I guess go up to the concession stand, pick up a little dinner, it's all, there you go. It's very convenient. I mean, there, as you know, Cecil, there has to be a function to everything.
It's multitasking from Andrew Mason. We'll be back tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey saying thanks for watching, everyone. Let's go Broncos. Stay tuned. And as always, stay frosty.